Hello, this is Paul from RankWyz. Today's video is a demo of the changes we made for bookmarking. I would say that's not a change, but rather a complete rework, and I definitely want to demonstrate what the changes we made for you to see how to use bookmarking. But before I do that, I'd like to briefly summarize the problems we're trying to solve with this rework, because this changes in the bookmarking is not an end result, is a part of the bigger process of changing the some of the key concepts of RankWyz. We don't like some of the concepts will stay the same, but some will be new, and you try to explain the problems we're trying to address to open RankWyz for more possibilities. RankWyz originally was planned with one main objective, to create a system and allow it to build authority blogs, primarily Web 2 blogs. Most of the link building tools and services before was focusing on so-called one-pagers. Register an account, post the content, and forget and move on. It was working for a long time, but then it gradually started working less because everyone was expecting authority. So this was RankWyz objective: create a system that doesn't really it's not really concerned about posting as many links as possible, but rather create a blog and over time make posts and let it indexed and grow authority, and after that use it for SEO purposes. And for those who don't know, the core component of the RankWyz is submission. Submission is kind of template, set of rules with all configuration about how to make a post to the blog. So define content, links, set up schedule, options, translate, speed, etc. And the sequence is to set up a content, and over time we started with simple, and over time grew with multiple sources. So you can post your own article, you can syndicate, you can use news sources, extract from RSS, and you set up a link set. And again, so we grew up to the multiple sources for links. And then you set up rules how to use content and link sets together. In order to grow authority blogs, so you don't need to post link in every post. In fact, you might want to post for a long time without links itself. And when you start merging links in, so you want to set up how many links, what percentages of posts will use your links, how to set up authority. And then you set up schedule and start submission. And again, so primarily objective was to build blogs over time. And obviously next question, way after we launched, was how to build effectively multi-tier, because link building proportionally effective as more and more tiers we build to the to our as a part of our link building process. RankWyz was built as RankWyz was built to address first tier problems. And to the question how to build low tiers, answer was set up link sets to pull URLs from external sources, RSS, sitemaps, other submission in RankWyz, etc. So basically, we create a link set, and instead of storing URLs to post, links to post, we now pull them from external sources. And inside RankWyz, so we set up one submission that will be producing pages, producing results, and then we set up a second network, set up a second submission, and we'll set up link set to pull results of the first submission. There's some kind of chaining. And obviously, because the problems. This is the problems we like. This is we come to the problems what we were looking to address. Unlike first tier, where submission has all information to compile content and links, lower tier had problems. First of all, it's increasingly more complex with the rules how to extract data in real time when prepare and post. It's prone to errors, and those errors are very user unfriendly. So basically, we don't have data stored, so we obviously cached it, but we had to go pull it from other sources. But the most important problem is there's not enough control. Whenever we come to the second tiers, third tier posting, it's not any longer about how to post the content so that those blogs survive and grow. Typical question for second and third tier posting is how to post every link X number of times, and can it be truly set and forget and used whenever we have higher tier posts. Another problem we had with our setup is in order to add more URLs, so you would have to go stop, set, reset, or might be create new submission. And now we specifically about bookmarking. Bookmarking by nature is lower tier, and problem here is even worse because our bookmarking implementation was offspring of the initial blog posting setup. It was extremely cumbersome setup from the point of view of regular bookmarking site user. You had to set up content, link set, then in this link set there were like rules you had to follow, no anchors, only naked links, because you had to set number of posts to 1, you had number of usage of link to 1, percentage to 100%. So every mistake in the step will cause the error in posting. And again, the same problem, very low control. How to set up bookmarking? Should we run it one time or continuously posting? So if you use continuously, it's more of like closer to idea of set and forget. But the problem with the bookmarking that every URL can be only bookmarked once in the user scope. So if, let's say, I set up continuously pull the RSS from the site, or pull the links from the first tier RankWyz submission, sooner or later I'll be pulling the same URLs and trying to post on the same account. That's why you'll see that percentage of failed post much higher. If I use one-time post, which I can achieve the like submission of, let's say, taking the URL and submit it several times, but then I need to create submission for every URL or several URLs over and over again. Honestly, the problem is lack of integration options. Like every user, like I was asked like 1,000 times, why do I need to do tons of steps over and over again, set up submission to bookmark my, just simply bookmark my new YouTube video. And this is, we combine all together while we were looking to how to rework the system to address all of those problems. So now we're introducing so-called, we call it internally push submissions. Unlike first tier blogging, where the main objective is to slowly post the content, sometimes with links, sometimes without. Objectives of the push submission is just post the link. So you have a link, you want to post it. And content setup is just a rule how to post a link. So I set up a content, and it's more like of the setup how to decorate the link. Another objective is link can be added anytime when available. let's say if I use bookmarking, if I use backlinking for my main site, whether I posted like yesterday 3 posts, or I posted only twice over the month, whenever a link is available, it should be pushed and posted over to the second tier. So we want to give user control of how many times post every link. Again, so with the old setup, if I had to calculate and guess what would be the volume of the higher tier in order to set up the volume of the lower tier. We want to give control and over how many times exactly every link will be posted. And obviously API, this is what will give our users new opportunities. The use cases, obviously, like, and again, so when we were looking, the very first when we build a system with one objective, one use case in mind, it started limited us as we growing over to other use cases. So this time with this push submissions, we try to address to make sure this new model will allow following use cases. User wants to load URLs to post 6 times each. Let's say I publish my press release and I want it to be bookmarked like 100 times, or I'm an ACO provider and this is my package, my combined package. I do YouTube video for a client, and then I want to bookmark it 100 times. With opening push API, we will allow users to integrate your own tools with RankWyz, and the system will be posting links once you send it to over. Another example is, let's say, a WordPress plugin. Once a post made, can be sent over to API to bookmark, let's say 5 times. Another rather exotic example is browser bookmarklet. So I'm reading the post, or I'm just checking the press releases, and I bookmark it right from my browser without going to RankWyz to be posted over my blogging and bookmarking sites. But obviously our primary concern use cases were integrated with how to integrate improve multi-tier setup within RankWyz. One use case is we have top tier submission, and once the post made and we have successful URL, set it immediately for backlinking. So let's say I want every blog post to be bookmarked 10 times automatically. So the recently introduced bookmark monitor, backlink monitor, is where we load the backlinks, discovered backlinks from Href and Majestic in the system for your main site. I'm sure some would ask why we introduced the feature that are available with other services, and this is exactly use case we thought of. We load backlinks, discovered backlinks, we set up rules, and we send them for backlinking. So you might use a lot of other higher end manual link building, like press releases and YouTube video, or some other means. But as soon as we load them in a backlink monitor, they will be automatically sent for backlinking, for bookmarking, for example. Link vault, pretty much the same setup. So you use your other tools and load your links in link vault. Link vault checks them, and you set up rules so that according to the links that are alive, have your link and matching other criteria, will be automatically sent to bookmarking. And Now we come to the demo. So this is our dashboard, and I go to one of my projects and I create new bookmarking network. I give it a name, select a tier, and create. Now I go to the network, and first of all you'll see that it's completely different UI. We reworked it as a part of the change to give a better view to the user of and better control. So you have a summary, you have a post instance, you have a list of a snippet of the submission, scheduled post, events. Settings are, we didn't change it much. Submissions, accounts. So like all other pages are just a rework to make them to be more user-friendly. And now we come to submission. Submission is pretty simple. For bookmarking, we have name and we have tags. And we want every bookmark to be every submitted URL to be bookmarked, let's say 5 times. We have an option to spread posts. Like, let's say I want them randomly to be within 1 day or 7 days, or I don't want them to be posted immediately. And I create a submission. So we have a submission, and again, this is just a rule how to post the link. So now we go into URLs, and we have several options. I go and upload URLs. I'll switch to another network where we already have accounts, and you see that, let's say I have one submission. I go to URLs, and let's say I want to let's say I dumped several URLs. 2 URLs were added. And you can see that there's no test1.com, failed to retrieve page content, and for the test.com, system created 5 bookmarking posts. You have we added better post control, so you can reschedule it. You can cancel specific post. You can click post now and set it to priority posting queue. This option is right now is disabled, so we just finishing this priority queue and processing. But if for some reason you want post to be skip the main queue, so you'll be able to post now. This is preview of the bookmarking. So you can delete, URLs and all post related. If let's say you did it by mistake, and all post related will be deleted. This is bulk import. So we have option to just create a new bookmark. This is what you're familiar from any bookmarking site itself. Let's say I have press release. I go load the title and description from the page, change tags. I can override the setup of how many times bookmark each URL. Let's say this time I want 50, and I'll send it to create new posts. So as you can see that you don't need to create any longer new submission over and over and over again. Submission is a set of rules. You come whenever you need to make say it's created 31, it's because it's limited number of accounts available in my case. Then I can delete them. So you don't need to create new submission over and over again. You create one, you have your, let's say, 100 to 200 bookmarking accounts. Whenever you need to bookmark something, you come and create a new bookmark and post. You can for the bulk import, you can enter number of URLs, and there's advanced settings where you can do title and body, title and description for with the spin text supported for each of those URLs. Let's say if they related, so you might just use page content. This is optional field, exactly as any bookmarking site works. So if you push URL only, it will just pull the title and description from the page. Otherwise, you might put the spin text in title and body. You can also override tags and override the number of bookmarks per every URL. What else? We have API, so you can push your bookmarks from your own tools, and well, I think it's this is what I wanted to show for short description. No. I go back to the integration scenarios, and while others backlink monitor and link world are still in our plans, you already can take your existing blogging submission. So basically, this is existing submission that posts on blog sites, another UI that's beginning to be reworked, and you go to options, and I showed recently so that you can put successful URL to link world. So exactly the same way you can now send a successful URL to bookmarking. So once again, we set up a submission, bookmarking submission, that we specify basic rules, let's say tags, and we have how many times to post every bookmark, and if we want to spread those posts over time. So now I can set up any submission and say that once the post is made and is successful, send it to bookmarking, and it will be bookmarked exactly the number of times you specify. Well, this is all for this changes in the bookmarking. As always, I'm looking forward to hear from you on what you think, your suggestions and feedback. Thank you for watching, and thank you for using RankWyz.